What's up, guys? Jeremy here from school.com/financial coaching. One of the most important concepts that you can understand about money is opportunity cost. And this video is not going to be the comprehensive video on it. Really, we need like a whole course on opportunity cost. It is that important, and there are a lot of implications as to how it interacts with each of the different resources that we talk about, time, people, and money, or relationships and money. There are also different ways that you interact with it in different stages or levels of the financial freedom pyramid. So let me just define it briefly, which is the opportunity cost is the thing you didn't do that you could have done. The thing you didn't buy that you could have bought. It is the cost of an unrealized opportunity. Opportunity. Like that's a key word, because not everything is necessarily a realistic opportunity for you. Like some gurus might be like, well, here's how much money do you make? Okay, you make $50K a year. That's cool. Well, so what if you were making $1 billion a year? So you're telling me that, you're going to give up 900, whatever that comes out to, 999,500,900,000, whatever. This is getting confusing already. The point so what the guru will say is like, the opportunity cost of you not learning how to make $1 billion a year is costing you the difference between $1 billion and your current annual salary. And of course, if you could make $1 billion a year, that'd be awesome. But I would not say that's a realistic opportunity for most people, particularly not if you're listening to some guru trying to learn from them how to do it. Like if you knew how to do it, you would already be on your way to doing it. And you're probably not like one self-help motivational speech away from that. So you're thinking about realistic opportunities. And I'll give you a couple examples, but a simple one is like, okay, with my money, I could spend it, right? And let's say there's a baseline of like what it costs to live, that let's just say it's a hard base. Now, of course, you could, through extreme frugality, lower that, kind of baseline cost of living and build yourself more margin. But let's just say there's a baseline cost of living, and now you're thinking about, man, should I go to this concert? I'm going to end up spending $500 on this weekend, and that's extra. It's $500 extra that I'm going to spend. The opportunity cost of that is basically, what else would you have done with that money, and what's the realistic opportunity available to you with that money? And so let's say you don't know anything about investments. The best you can do is just throw it in the S&P 500. So, okay, your money would have not only not been spent, but it would have been compounding at a 10% annual growth rate. And how old are you and how young are you? And that's a big factor, because the younger you are financially, and the other resources too, time and relationships, the greater the opportunity cost is, because of just the law of compounding. And so the alternatives that were realistically available to you would have had that many more decades to compound for you. So, man, we're going to break this into more videos. Don't feel like you have to understand it fully right now. But financially, with money, this comes into play a lot, particularly if you're doing something good with your money that you feel like such a winner, but you end up maybe falling short of how much money you could have made if you had done something different that was realistically available to you. Well, some things might not be available to you right now, but with 5 years of effort, they could be available. Like in my early 20s, I was thinking, I wonder if I can invest assets in a way that outperforms the S&P 500, that outperforms the general market. And if I can, like if it takes me 10 years where I don't make any money, or let's say I even lose all my principal, but at the end of 10 years, when I turn 30 years old, I will confidently and sustainably be able to average a 15% ROI on the investments that I manage, then I will end up in a better place financially, even if I blow all my money in that decade, because I learned how to go from a 10% baseline to a 15% baseline. And that 15%, starting with what I'm going to save at age 30, compounding to the time that I have left, is going to grow past the 10% growth rate starting at age 20. So that was like a very conscious decision. And what I'm trying to illustrate here is within opportunity costs, you have opportunities that are currently presently available for you. And those are the easiest to decide, especially if it's using the same resource, or the easiest to discern at least. Like, okay, I have time. So what am I going to do with my time? And let's say in an extreme scenario, you wanted to be a hobo, kind of freeloader, homeless bum type, like beach body. Not beach body, unless you got a beach body, then hey, what's up? But like, let's say you're like, I don't have to work, I'm just gonna kind of like freeload and beg my way through life. The cost of doing that, like the true cost, the financial cost, the dollars out of pocket, is incredibly low. Incredibly low. I mean, it costs so little time, so little relational network, so little money required, and you can live your whole life. Like it's a good trade-off for some people, that on the surface, it seems like a cost-effective option. If you're just thinking about costs in a traditional sense, in terms of time that I spend, relationships that I have to spend or utilize, money that I have to spend, it's like, boom, it doesn't cost any of that. But when you think about opportunity cost, that decision costs you a lot of money, because you could work just a pretty normal job with a normal amount of hours and normal amount of relationships, no particular gifts or skill sets or anything, and build up a nest egg of several $1,000,000 for sure. And so the cost of I'm going to freeload my way through is, from an opportunity cost perspective, several $1,000,000 that you're leaving on the table, right? And we understand that intuitively, right? Like, we understand, even though it seems like, oh, this is the most cost-effective thing to do, we understand intuitively, like, man, you're giving up so much. You could have blank. Classic, like, overbearing parent that wants their kid to be a doctor, and then the kid doesn't want to be a doctor. It's like, oh man, you could have blank, right? It's the opportunity cost. It's not that the path that you're choosing is bad. It's just like, there are different ceilings to different career paths in terms of financial status, So it's easier to understand when you think about it in extremes and when you think about it with like resources, but it gets more complex. And I think, generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend at level 1 that you think much about opportunity cost, because the best thing you can do is get free from money. The best thing you can do is get free from your preconceived notions and the ruling spirits and voices and opinions that are untethered from the truth, that are somehow controlling your ideals and your desires and just stealing your joy from this life. I mean, there's nothing better you could do with your resources and with your efforts than to get free from that. At level 2, you're just trying to understand what is opportunity cost and how do I imagine it and picture it in different scenarios. Another example of an unrealistic example is like, oh man, like let's say it's like you could know, I don't know, just Elon Musk. Like knowing him, that would be an awesome relationship to have, right? That would be great. Okay, I'm not going to explain this for that long because no duh. But like, okay, do you really have a viable path to get to know him? Obviously you don't know him yet, but is there any way where you could know him? How long would it take? 2 decades, 3 decades? Or is it really like there is no viable path? If there's no viable path in the present or in the foreseeable future, which I would say like 10 years or less is really the furthest out that I would recommend projecting. Because beyond that, I mean, as far as like time and skill development, because it's just hard to imagine what the world looks like in an ever increasingly changing world at an increasingly fast rate. I wouldn't personally bank on something that's going to pan out in 20 years. I wouldn't personally. Depending on, there's some variables. There's some unique cases. Regardless, you have the opportunity cost of what you're giving up right now that you have available to you. This time that you could spend learning a skill, or you could spend, I don't know, like watching sports. It's like, okay, which one should I do? Well, okay, learning a skill is better. But it's not just like better, it's like, what are you actually losing by forfeiting that opportunity of learning that skill? Or the relationship that you could have pursued, the friendship that you could have had, the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Opportunity cost is all about acknowledging that in the present and getting ahead of it. It's not just what did I pass up that I could have had or could have chosen in the present. It's also what could I be doing now? Like, what am I passing up now that would have allowed me an opportunity in 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 years? And if I do something now that can open up a door then that makes the future opportunity cost so high, aka like the value of my decisions so much greater, then it's not too hard to extrapolate how my choices now are tied to doors that aren't even available to me yet, because I can do things to cultivate future open doors. With my investment example, for example, I knew if I can learn how to manage assets in a way that generates a 15% ROI, I was calculating just from a numbers perspective, would it be worth it for me to pursue that? But I also knew not how much it would be worth, but I knew like if I can do that, that is a very marketable skill. Like, I know that I would be able to make a career out of that. And so I'm at 20 years old, taking risks, learning lessons, consuming as much educational material as I can related to investment management, and at 21 and at 22. And you know what? On Saturday mornings, sometimes there would be friends that are doing things for fun, and I'm like at a coffee shop researching companies. And there's a cost that I paid there, right? An opportunity cost of, well, man, what doors could have opened if I had been more frequent at Frisbee or more frequent at spike ball, and to me the perceived costs were very low. I'm like, I'm still going to be friends with these people. Like, you don't have to show up every time. You have to show up every time if you want to be in the cool clique inner nucleus of a friend group. But if you just want the relationship, it's not all or nothing in terms of like I have to attend every single thing that anyone in this friend group ever does. You know what I mean? So for me, the perceived opportunity cost was low of like I'm gonna give up some social activities that to me were mainly like pleasantries, and I don't lose the relationship if I am less frequently attending group social events, particularly if on the other side I am also leaning heavily into the one-on-one or the one-on-two or there's just 4 people hanging out, kind of the more intimate, deeper level, longer conversation, I can get to know you better type of relational settings, and maybe I'll miss some of the rah board game night, etc. So I'm spending time researching companies. There's an opportunity cost with everything. There's an infinite number of things that you could be doing with every dollar, with every relationship, with every minute. You don't have to go hyper analytical about, oh my gosh, am I doing the very best thing? Let me just finish my sentence I was saying a second ago, which is that paid off for me to research companies, right? Because it ended up building a skill that turned into a business that is now like my long-term career. And I knew that I would open the door for that if I gave 10 years to studying it. And so it wasn't an opportunity. Like I would not have been able to start BR Legacy at 20 years old. I don't think I would have been able to. But there would still be a real opportunity cost if there was a really viable path to it that I didn't pursue. Now, back to what I was kind of winding down on, which is you don't have to hyperanalyze, because if you do, it creates paralysis analysis. A lot of people at level 2, they cut corners on the learning and they don't understand opportunity costs as deeply as they should. And then they jump to level 3, and then at level 3, they're just thinking opportunity cost, opportunity cost. Maybe consciously that's not the word they're saying, but it comes out in what should I do? And is that the best thing to do? And am I doing the right thing? And at level 3, that's not what level 3 is about. Like level 3 is about just do stuff. Like anything you do is better than not doing. Like you're just trying to do. Like you're trying to activate the muscles in your body and your brain and your spirit and your creativity. Like just invest, just sharpen the axe, right? Just swing it at stuff, right? It doesn't matter because everything is opportunity. It's like the Wild West, a whole new landscape. Even at level 4, you're not necessarily hyper focused on, is this the very best thing to do? Like you're starting to narrow in a little bit, but really it's level 5, level 6. Like it's the more money you're making, the more opportunity cost matters, because the more valuable the opportunities are. Like the more wealthy you are in terms of time, the more wealthy you are in terms of relationships, the more wealthy you are in terms of financial assets, it adds weight to the opportunity cost analysis. And then it's not analysis paralysis. It's like, no, I'm gonna do something. I'm not just gonna sit here and wonder which is the best option to do, but it really is like, which one am I gonna do? And if I take a month to decide, that's still gonna be worth the time where I sit here and really break it down, because there's a lot of money on the line with how do I make sure I'm optimizing my weeks, my months, my years, my efforts to the highest ROI possibilities. But I would not recommend hyperanalyzing it at a lower level, because again, anything you do to create value is going to be super fulfilling and it's going to open doors. Like it's all going to be so much better. Just doing anything will be so much better than giving up on the financial freedom pyramid, feeling like, oh, I don't make $10 million a year yet, so I'm a failure, and I don't know how to make $10 million, so I'm just gonna like sit here and hang out and just like live a normal life. And jump back on the hamster wheel. Like, that is the risk of thinking you need to like strike gold at your first swing. Like you don't have to. Just swing. And as you get better at swinging, right, then you can start to narrow in. But understanding intuitively opportunity cost, and another aspect I'll just add to the realistic opportunity cost is, and what makes level 2 so important is mastering yourself. For me, like, it's not a realistic, it never ever was a realistic opportunity for me to become a surgeon. Like, I do not like, I'm not a great test taker, first of all. I don't know if I could have even made it through medical school. But like, I don't I don't like blood. I don't like medical anything. Like, I just wanted nothing to do with that. I would have no passion doing that, not even fulfillment doing that. I don't like the medical industry in general. Like, I just don't even want to, like, there's no part of me that ever seemed like that's a viable option for me. And most things are not viable options for you. So you don't have to feel so overwhelmed with opportunity cost. It's not a viable option for you to turn $1 into $1 million through some type of crazy hyperactive stock trading, and you just hit triple sevens 7 times in a row and now you're a millionaire. Like, that's not a realistic option, right? It's not a real opportunity cost. But there are real opportunity costs, and the more that you lean into this in level 2, being a student of the game and a master of yourself, the more that it's going to clarify for you what are at least hypothetical paths of opportunity that you don't necessarily know them. You're not necessarily trying to like you're trying to be expansive in level 2 and level 3, like divergent thinking, brainstorming. What are some opportunities that I could pursue, that I could weigh? What are some future doors that I could open? Are there some people that I could meet? Are there pockets of time that I could open up? Are there ways that I can generate revenue and increase ROI on my investments and increase my take-home pay year over year that like fit with me? At least hypothetically, maybe I might want to, So anyways, but knowing yourself is gonna limit how far out the brainstorming goes, which will then make the convergent thinking, the let me try to narrow in on something and pick something and do something, a lot easier for you. But an easier way to know, like, where do I start first is like, just do whatever you want to do. Like, if it sounds fun, perfect. Like, that's what you're trying to do anyways, is be a master of yourself. And then in level 3, like, you're trying to cultivate passion with your time. So if you're going to do something that you're getting something out of and you're applying yourself, it's not just like you're just watching Netflix, but like you are activated and you're experiencing joy and fulfillment from it. Boom. Boom. That's exactly what you want. And you don't need to know, like, you're only going to get passionate about so many things. And you can't just I don't think you can manufacture passion from the absolute base level ground up. Like, you need to want to do something at least a little bit, and then you start to feed that and you lean into that, and your wants might begin to expand. So again, opportunities begin to grow as you invest in yourself as well. But so anyways, if you're doing something that you want to be doing, you're doing great. You're doing great. It's not about how do I know I'm doing the absolute perfect thing, but it is about understanding that there are trade-offs in life. That's what opportunity cost is. What did you trade off? What did you give up? What did you not do that you could have done? What was the value of the available resources to you, the available options to you at the time, that had you allocated differently or decided differently, you could have realized? It's the unrealized value that was available to you. That's what opportunity cost is. This was a longer video than I planned on making, but don't worry, there will be more to break this theme down. But hopefully this is at least getting the gears turning for you. All right, talk to you soon.